This week I'm introducing you to a new app that will help you diagram and create your user flows in a much easier way than we might be able to do with Adobe Illustrator or even Adobe XD. We could certainly use those programs to do this, but this app is really geared toward making diagrams and things like this, charts and the like. So I find it a lot quicker to get started, and I think you'll find it pretty easy and fun to use. So here I am at the main screen. Um, Simply type in draw.io and you're at the web app. So you're going to see a screen like this. You can use Google Drive, OneDrive, which is I think from Microsoft, or you can store these locally on your own device. I have been using my Google account to do this. I think we probably all have a Google account at this point. So I'm going to use, in this case, at this screen, I'm going to decide to use Google Drive. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to authenticate to my Google account, which I'm here in Google Chrome. I'm already logged into the browser itself, so this is all relatively painless for me. And then I want to create a new diagram. And so when you get to this screen, there's some options that are here. So you have a basic like blank template basically, or a blank page. You can kind of click through some of these different areas and um, see some kind of pre-made charts. I don't think there's anything in here that you're going to find useful for yourself. I mean, you would basically be deleting a lot of stuff. So I think it's easiest to start from something that's blank. But you can click in here and play around with any of these if you would like. You can look around and just kind of see how they make things. I think that's helpful sometimes. You can certainly look around. But to get my diagram started and just share some tips with you, I'm going to pick the basic option here and choose the blank diagram and hit create. Actually, before I hit create, I might as well do this, which is to give it a custom name, untitled diagram. This is the file it's going to save in Google Drive. So I'll call this user flows demo. Create. Use the root folder. I'm going to say, no, let's pick a folder. And in this case, if you were in Google Drive and you already have one, I'm going to choose my UX design folder because I did have one. All right, so here I am, ready to roll. So the first time you come in here, um, you can do a couple things. I've already set a landscape document, so the last time I was in here, I did that. So um, I've using a paper size that I can print these out on if I want to, or something like that. Um, you can also choose portrait, but in my case, I'm going to choose landscape document. You might, like I said, see something that's portrait. You can turn off the grid and just see a white piece of paper if you would like. Um, and then the page view just shows the piece of paper, or you could see this very large kind of canvas that you can use. So I'm gonna turn on page view just so I know the size that I'm working in. And mostly, like I said, I'm just kind of thinking about my output later on down the road. I just want to try to fit this all into this space. That's what my goal is. All right, so that's good. That's what's over there. Over here on the left side, you have lots of different shapes that you can drag out and arrows. Um, you can expand all of these and see different types of things. You don't have to use any of this stuff. It's just stuff. Don't be distracted too much by it. It's just some of these things I think honestly they could be just time wasters. So a lot of what you need actually is in this general area. I just want shapes that are helpful to get my point across. The shapes don't have to resemble anything in particular. Other elements that are here, little curved connectors and things like that. So there's a flowchart section here, and you could use some of these things. Some of these elements in certain types of flowcharts and creation of flowcharts actually have meanings for different things. In our case, I'm not that concerned about the shapes that you use. I think, you know, using a bunch of random shapes just because they have them doesn't make sense. We're all visual creative people. And so this needs to be a clean, professional looking document. So this little cylinder, I don't see why I would use that. Um, the stick figure here, I don't see why I would use that, but you may have a compelling reason. All right, so I'm going to keep it straightforward and simple. I'm going to drag off this rectangle. I just want to show you a couple things. So let's say my user has the app and he's opening it, and you're going to basically creating one of these for each of your personas. And so I'll call my user, um, his name will be Matt. And so Matt is going to come in here. He's going to see the loading or splash screen. That's where my, just a colored a colored little screen comes up. It's got the logo in the middle, something like that. And then let's say they want to come into a login screen, or I want them to come into a login screen. Maybe Matt is a user that hasn't used the app before. Maybe he's a brand new user or something like that. So we just kind of want to have him walk through that whole process. So let me just describe this a little bit. So one of the things I'm asking you for is to include the name of your persona on here. So identify this persona. You're going to have three of them. Like, what's the difference between the three? Let's talk about the difference. So I want to just elaborate on what he's going to do. Matt is logging, and you can write yours however you want to. Logging in for the first time. Then he will work on setting up his profile. And I'm using a completely generic, I'll just call this Matt. You don't have to use this box that I use with this kind of H1 and then the paragraph copy. You can use two different text boxes if you would like and set the font to be whatever you want it to be. So here I have just to demonstrate this a little bit, so I have this text box. I can select the text here, and if you're tired of Helvetica, you could choose some other typeface. There's not a lot to choose from here, but you could do the custom thing and start to play around with that if you'd like. So anyway, let's say I want to have Matt's name a lot bigger. And again, you can see some samples that I put up for other students from previous semesters, and some people get a little more visual with this. It's taking a really long time to kind of mouse that up, so I'm going to type in 80 point there. And then this could be the title of it. So this is the user flow or the little user journey for Matt. I'm using Command 0 to zoom in and out, so that's what you saw that pop up on my screen. So anyway, I could do that right there, and then here I could say, I don't really need that at all. And then this right here, I just kind of just tweaking the type a little bit here. This will be like 15 point. Good. So I'm just going to have this on here somewhere. Again, you can make the type look however you would like it to look. Okay, so back to this this little rectangle that I made. So the first time I used draw.io, and this is the thing I learned, this is a tip that I want to share with you. I had my box here, I grabbed the arrow, and then I start rearranging the arrow just like I'm, taking points in Illustrator and modifying them. And then I would drag another one out, kind of line it up or whatever, and say, um, this is going to be the login screen. So it comes in here and bring another one out, and you can decide which way it goes, and then drag an arrow, and I'm sitting here kind of futzing with all these points, and oops, I accidentally grabbed it and made it a curve. It can be a little bit cumbersome. So here's the better way. I'm just going to delete these things now that I put out here. And this arrow too. So as you're hovering, you'll notice these little blue arrows come up. If I click that, it will create a new box for you, just like the one you had, and it'll connect it with an arrow. And so when I have that arrow that's already there, I can move this around and it'll move the arrow with you. I think I learned that last spring, about a year ago, and my mind was blown once I discovered that. It's really great. So hopefully you are able to use that and you find that useful. So again, this was going to be the login screen. And then over here, Matt's going to go to, he's going to have a successful login. And then here you could say, oh, he's going to use Google or Facebook or Twitter or whatever to log in, you could add some of those details if you would like. And then here he's going to go to the user profile. And then the user profile, maybe it wants to do a couple different things. And so he wants to upload a photo. And so I could list out these tasks, and obviously, depending on your app, you could have a lot of different things. So that's a quick little intro into Draw.io. I think it's pretty self-explanatory for the most part, and um, you may need to add some of these arrows. Maybe I want another one that comes off the bottom of the user profile at an angle. I mean, you may want to do something like that. So one more final tip, and then I'll jump over to Blackboard quick and just talk about the examples that I put in there. Um, so you need to create 3 of these, but before you do, um, it's easier actually to do something like this, which is to go down to the bottom of the window. And you can see this page 1 here, so that's the first one that we've been creating. There's a plus sign here. We can insert a new page. And so I'm just going to insert my other 2 pages. So rather than creating a separate document for each of these and trying to copy and paste from one to another, easiest thing you could do is do it all in here. And then when it comes time to export, you can go to File and then Export As, and you can choose PDFs, PNGs, or whatever you need to do. And it'll help you get all of those out kind of with a couple of easy clicks. So just taking that a little further, once I had this all done, so I'm just going to drag so I can select. I'm gonna hold the shift key down so I can select, oops, undo that. So I can select these things as well, or I'll click on it. Try selecting this again. So I'm just dragging out again. Good. So I was holding the shift key and I just kind of left click and drag, and I can get everything selected. At this point I can say Command C to copy, and I can go to page 2 and use um, Command V to paste. And then you could go and customize this one. And that is another name that you can put on there, and you could paste on here. So if you have one done, you might be able to save yourself some time by doing some copying and pasting from that first document to your other pages. So let me show you kind of on that point, like some of the examples that are in Blackboard. So this one was from maybe a student that had done this last spring, and this you'll notice as you look through these, sometimes they're all the same. So another example is, this one right here, the layout of and all the different boxes, or you could imagine these being screens or features from their minimum viable product. Um, these basically are the same, and then this student was just using color and weight of the stroke to identify the path that the user's going in. So there's a couple different approaches. There's no right answer. You decide, how you best want to do it. Um, but there's just some different visual approaches that you can do. You can keep it simple. It can be black and white. It doesn't matter. Some people just kind of take it a step further and do other things that maybe match the branding that they're thinking of for their app in the coming weeks. So those are the user flow samples that I have. So one thing about these is they're not exactly, I wouldn't say they're, perfectly flawless or anything like that. I'm just trying to find some decent examples that I had in the past couple of semesters, so you have something to go off of. So hopefully it's helpful. One thing about this class being in the classroom was, if students are working these in the classroom, I could talk to them about questions they had about what they were doing. So you may have questions as you're making this. So you can try to reach me on Slack or send me an email with any questions that you have, and I'll try to assist.